I am curious to see what people think about this story. I ended up getting into a lot of legal trouble for something I didn't even do. At that point in my life, I chalked it up to life isn't fair sometimes. But now that I'm over a decade removed from the situation, I'm a little shocked at how everything played out. I was 19 during the altercation of this story, and I was young and stupid. I moved out right away and rented this nasty little place with my girlfriend. I used the word place loosely. This was little more than a shack. We'd only been dating for a few months, and we were not good together. We fought constantly, and like I said, I was young, and I thought that I knew what I was doing. Moving in with her was my rebellion against my parents, who did not like this young woman. As soon as we moved in together, we started to fight right away, though. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and she would just be staring at me. And if anybody had ever seen the movie Paranormal Activity, when the main character just stands there and stares at her significant other for hours, that is exactly what my ex-girlfriend was doing. It was really creepy. I woke up 2 nights in a row to her standing there. Now, when I called her out on it, she just responded, "Relax, I'm just watching you." What does that even mean? I tried not to let it bother me, and I also tried not to tell my parents that they were right. I made minimum wage, she didn't work, and I couldn't pay my bills, eat, and support her. It just wasn't plausible. And this, of course, led to fights. I finally hit my breaking point after a month, and I told her that I was moving out as soon as the month was officially over. She lost it on me when I told her that. She started to punch me in the face like I was an actual punching bag, and I held my hands up and just screamed for her to stop. I'm sure neighbors heard, but in the area I lived, nobody got involved with anybody else's business. When she finally calmed down, we tried to have a conversation. I was so surprised at how well the conversation went, considering our track record of past conversations. We agreed to move back to our parents' houses and just take things one day at a time. It was a mature conversation, and I started to feel good about it. I made my arrangements and told her that I would be moving home tomorrow morning. I could tell that she was upset, but just nodded and said okay. That night, I woke up to her screaming, like the type of screaming that you would hear if someone was getting murdered. It was my girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or whatever she was at the time. She wasn't in the room, so I ran into the living room, and she was standing next to the front door. I grabbed her shoulder and asked if she was okay. She was sobbing uncontrollably. I held her and tried to tell her everything was okay. While I was hugging her, she had her keys in her hand and smacked me in the back of the head with her keys. I started to yell in pain and frustration, asking what that was all about, and she just kept saying that she knew. I still have no idea what she knew to this day, but repeatedly, she just kept saying that she knew. I kept stupidly trying to plead with her to relax when I should have just got into my car and drove away at that moment. What I didn't realize was, prior to her screaming, she had called the police. When I held my hand out to try and console her, she threw herself at me. I was basically holding her in my arms. The cops knocked on the door and opened it. They saw her sobbing and immediately handcuffed me. Didn't even ask any questions or anything, just told me to step away, put my hands up, and they cuffed me. I didn't know what to do or what to say, and I have never been in legal trouble before. She just kept yelling at me, "Serves you right, dirtbag." I tried pleading with the cops that I have no idea what's going on, and they were being kind of rude and ignoring me and giving me very little acknowledgement. They put me in the back of the car and told me that they were taking me to the holding center until they could get this sorted out. I called my parents, who were down there in minutes, fighting for me. I guess she called the police and told them that I had been beating her for weeks. Let me just see. There are monsters out there that do this, and everything that happens to those people, they deserve it. But I truly never laid a finger on her. She also told the cops that she was the one who wanted to move out, and when she told me is when I lost my temper. Thankfully, I had all the text conversations with my parents about moving home, and that helped me a lot. I don't know how it's possible, and when I tell people this story, they don't understand how it's possible either, but I was held at this holding center for over a week. They wouldn't let me out, and with no evidence or proof, they just held me there. Some people have told me it could be because of the county that I was in, but either way, it was just still incredibly messed up. I finally got out, and within a days I got a text from her asking when I was moving back home, meaning our shack that we lived in. I didn't respond, and I just blocked her number. I ended up winning a suit against them actually and had my record cleaned up, but it took a long time to happen. I had this stain on my name for years. And one last detail about this horrible story. About 4 or 5 years ago, I found out that she was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia. Apparently it runs in her family, as she has 2 cousins that also have it. And the last that I knew, she was in some institution for trying to stab her boyfriend at the time. She claimed he was working with the CIA to assassinate world leaders. And when I found that out, I legitimately got shivers. I thought of all the times she just watched me sleep, and about the night that she had me arrested when she kept saying that she knew. I'm so happy I got out when I did, even if it did cost me months of hell. Thankfully, she was never able to actually physically harm anyone, at least that I know of anyway. I truly hope she gets the help she needs and that one day she can live a happy and healthy life.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. Today is my best friend's funeral. I loved the guy, and I had always thought of him more like a brother than a friend. But I haven't prepared a eulogy, nor do I know if I'll be able to say anything since my mind is a mess right now. When I first heard his wife Veronica crying over the phone call while saying that Julius was burned to death, I couldn't believe my ears. Police had found his car 24 hours after his death, but I was unable to ask for further details as I was the first suspect with a motive to murder. As the investigation started, his body was sent to forensics for autopsy and other legal stuff. But as a week passed by and they still did not hand over the corpse to the family, Julius's wife started to insist that she wanted his body back to hold her husband's funeral. The way she saw it was that her beloved's corpse was being disrespected even after his death, and she couldn't withstand watching the body lying in the morgue's freezer when it should be resting in his grave. She worked hard to get the approval of her requests and pleaded more than you can imagine. Finally, after a lot of supplication, she was allowed to take the body with her as they had already taken the samples needed for forensic investigation. For some reason, this little stunt of Veronica made her the focus of the law's eyes, and she became the prime suspect in the crime as they thought she was trying to hide something by this. However, she did not pay much attention to that and asked me to come to his funeral and pay my respects, not just as his friend, but as Julius's business partner as well. I had already decided that whatever assets he owned in our failed business would be given to Veronica as she was his life partner. And since it was impossible for me to turn her down, I accepted her invitation and helped her arrange the funeral for my best friend. Now that I'm reminded of our memories together, it doesn't seem like much time had passed since the two of us were studying business majors together in college. It was during the 3rd year when he fell for Veronica. He had a gifted mind for business, and if given the chance, he could surpass anyone, while I was more of a hardworking individual. There were frequent times when the two of us would just come up with ideas together and discuss business. And then finally the day arrived when we pursued at least one of them. Since we did not have much funding, we were only able to start up a small business, but we had faith in ourselves that we would be able to make it big. Julius was innovative. He found out about the Shark Tank and started to insist that we go on their show and showcase our business idea. I never really believed in that television stuff, as I knew most of what they show is scripted, and even if it was real, there was no way anyone was fool enough to invest in us, as our business was about eco-friendly car batteries based on solar energy and gas. It was hard enough as it was, as we were giving it our all to try and make it a success, but it was not easy to combine technology and nature, although all the technology already exists has similar factors. Still, I was not confident in our little business plan, but Veronica persuaded me with such a heartfelt speech that I had no other choice but to go. She was an ambitious girl from the beginning, and I had always respected her for that. My friend added an upgrade to our business idea, and we went to the Shark Tank with that. I couldn't believe it when they showed interest in investing in us. It was a nice feeling I got when they liked our idea, saying it was pretty unique and they would like to take a risk with us. With the help of their investment, we became some big shots all of a sudden as our business started to skyrocket. I was content with this success, but Julius was still not satisfied with it, and he wanted to add more upgrades so the business could grow more. He shared his well-thought plan with me, and if it was to be put in motion, the company was going to take a downfall at the first step. But with the second step, it would become even more successful than it already was. He asked me to keep it a secret from his girlfriend since he was about to propose to her, but he was scared if she were to find out about this, she might reject him. I did as he wanted me to and kept my mouth sealed. The two of them ended up getting married within 3 months, and as he was enjoying his newly married life, I was only focused on saving our company and was working harder than anyone. He slowed down after marriage as if he was not even interested in work anymore, and as a result, a lot of burdens and responsibilities fell onto my shoulders. One day as I was smoking outside the company's gate while sitting on a bench, he approached me, asked for a smoke, and sat next to me. It was a bit shocking since I'd never seen him smoke before, and was surprised thinking how and when he started doing something he used to hate. But watching him smoke consecutively, it seemed as if he was turning into a heavy smoker. I guess something might have bothering him. I wanted to ask what was going on in his life, but I couldn't bring myself to open my mouth. Still, I was worried about my brother. A week went by, and one day his wife came crying to my office and told me that Julius was not in his right mind. At first, I couldn't understand what to think of that sentence, but as she told me about the frequent fights that had been going on due to her recent pregnancy, I understood what might have happened. Even before his marriage, he had shared his thoughts about how he wanted to wait before starting a family. Veronica told me that she was 1 month pregnant, but when Julius found out, he showed his displeasure while saying he wanted to wait at least 2 years for a child. As she did not want to abort her unborn child and wanted to keep it, the two of them started to fight. She wanted me to talk to him and see if I would be able to change his mind about the matter. Even though it was not my place to meddle in their personal life, I still mustered up the courage and talked to him. Finally, after a long talk, I was able to convince him to keep the child and told him if he was worried about finances, we had enough savings to go through the loss. He went home after that, and by the looks of it, he seemed somewhat relieved. After reaching home, the first thing he did was apologize to his wife for his past behaviors and give her a long, passionate kiss. He arranged a romantic late-night dinner for her, and since she was having a pregnancy craving for ice cream, she asked him to go and get some for her, to which he agreed. He took the car keys and headed out, and he might have reached half a mile when he noticed something was wrong with his car as the brakes were not working. Even though he tried to slow it down, but for some reason he couldn't, and the only option that was left for him now was to jump off Classic Right. That was why I was so confused when I heard the news of his death, and I couldn't understand why he did not jump off. How in the world did he got burned if his car crashed into a tree? He probably would have survived if he had jumped before the impact. A man of his caliber died in an accident for some reason. It seemed as if it was a planned murder, and it was a shocker for everyone who heard of this. Veronica was arrested after his funeral, as it was proved in forensic reports that the wine he drank before driving was spiked, and the drug mixed in it made him lose his senses. So when he got in the car, he couldn't step on the brakes while mistaking that it was not working. He probably rammed his car into a tree thinking it would stop, but before he could step out of the car, it blew up, causing him to burn to death. Investigators came to my house several times for statements and questioning, and I told them everything I knew. I also added that Veronica asked me to give half of the company assets to her and showed them the papers that I had ready for the transfer. They were able to put all the puzzle pieces together, and finally, she was arrested for her husband's alleged murder. Well, to be honest, I told them everything while excluding a few minor details, such as how I was the one who planted the dinner idea into his mind. And it was also me who handed him that wine to try and show effort to Veronica to make it up to her. There's more. I was the only one who knew of his plan to make the company a success within 2 years. But when he said he was going to sell his shares to secure that baby's future, I lost my mind. There was no way the plan would have worked with half the company assets gone. So I came up with a plan. Everything went perfectly, and just as I had thought, Veronica became the suspect. And as I prepared to transfer Julius's share to her name, it became the final piece of the puzzle put together to deflect the suspicion from me to Veronica. Now, I have successfully committed a perfect crime where someone else is paying for it while I got the company, and its success all for myself.
I had an exceptionally upsetting incident on my third job house sitting. To help you understand why it affected me so much, I should probably tell you about myself. I grew up in a single-parent home. My mom has always been a loving and understanding parent, but I think she felt pressure to find a new husband. My dad left us soon after I was born. She began dating almost immediately. This pressure caused her to make a lot of bad choices. She did the bar scene, constantly bringing home a new man. A few would stay, but not for long. She never seemed to understand that you don't find a husband in a place like that. Every relationship inevitably broke down into arguments and fighting, and on more than one occasion, the fights got physical on both sides. My mom's love of wine did a lot to inflame tensions. And because of this constant state of chaos, I became a people pleaser and hated confrontation. It's the big reason behind my panic attacks. I've worked a lot on my assertiveness, but I sometimes fall back into my old habits. My story starts in 2015. I was bouncing from job to job. I've been having a hard time finding something in my degree field. A friend had recently become a house sitter and made it sound fun. She made it sound like a permanent vacation, and I desperately needed one of those. She gave me a quick course on the ins and outs of the job and helped me land my first client. I was a ball of nerves, but I got through it. The second client went much smoother. It would be the third that would make me think twice about doing this long term. It was now mid-2016. I answered an ad asking for someone to sit a house a few hours away. This would be my first long-distance gig, and I didn't want to mess it up. I made a list of questions and showed them to my friend. She suggested a few changes, and I called the number. The homeowner and I made an appointment for me to view the property. I quickly made arrangements and drove up to meet him. He was a businessman, needing to leave town on short notice. My job would be to accept packages and mail, but most importantly, look after his dog. The dog's name was Bart. He was a St. Bernard mix, and when we first met, he didn't appear very interested in anything. He sniffed me once and returned to his bed. It all seemed simple enough. I asked a few questions, and at the end of the appointment, we both decided that I'd be perfect for the job. I checked into my hotel for the night and returned the following morning. My stay would be for 3 full nights, and I was looking forward to relaxing and maybe even playing with Bart. That afternoon, I tried to do just that. Bart wasn't interested, though. Instead, we lounged together on the patio. It was a beautiful sunny day. The slow, cool breeze in the shade made it feel like paradise. The home's slightly remote location allowed for a wonderfully peaceful environment. I felt calmer than I had in a very long time. Bart and I took a brief nap before going back inside for dinner. I ordered a pizza and cheesy bread. Afterwards, I opened a pint of ice cream I bought for such an occasion and parked my butt in front of the television. Bart was proving to be just as easy to handle as I'd hoped. He joined me on the couch and we watched a movie on Netflix. We had completed a little less than half of it before the doorbell began ringing. This wasn't your normal ringing, however. The person was pushing the button over and over again. It was now well after 5 p.m. and I wasn't aware of anyone visiting that late. I did briefly consider not answering it, but the incessant ringing made me think someone may need help. The woman I encountered on the opposite side of the door had very aggressive body language. I didn't say one word before she tore into me. She demanded to speak to the homeowner. I told her he was out of town on business. It didn't seem wise to let her know when he was to return. She didn't appear to believe me. As she spoke, she grew louder and became visibly angrier. I could feel myself getting increasingly nervous, and I did all I could to convince her. Then, she began cursing at me, calling me all these things and terrible words I'd rather not repeat here. She had convinced herself that I was the homeowner's new girlfriend. I hadn't noticed until just then, but Bart had walked up behind me. As he became more enraged, he grew more aggressive. The scene quickly became a cacophony of yelling and barking. I could feel a panic attack was on the way. I was completely overwhelmed by all of it. Bart's booming bark echoed through the hallway. It looked like he would attack her at any moment, and things would only get worse from here. I'm not sure what I said, but it set the woman off, and she lunged at me. Bart reacted by lunging at her. By some miracle, I was able to get the door closed before anyone was hurt. After that, Bart calmed down a bit. He backed away a few feet and sat down, but his eyes stayed glued to the door. I slid down the door and commenced to suffering one of the worst panic attacks I've ever experienced. The woman continued screaming and pounding on the door, and I was sure that I was dying. To his credit, Bart stayed where he was and did nothing, and minutes passed and I was able to get enough control of myself to call the police. The operator did a fantastic job of talking me down. The police arrived and I made it clear that she attempted to assault me. The officers were understanding and took the woman away with them. I'm not sure if he was formally arrested, however. I was still very shaken. I was a heartbeat away from running back home. In any matter, I had to notify the homeowner of what had happened. He was extremely apologetic and begged me not to leave, but against my better judgment, I agreed to stay. Like I said, I tend toward being a people pleaser. Admittedly, leaving Bart alone after he tried to protect me would have been cruel. We finally agreed that my fee would be doubled. It did feel like extortion, and I knew it may affect my reputation, but I'd already decided this would be my last sitting job, so I accepted. I'd need all the money I could get until I found a new job anyway. The next 2 nights were calm and quiet. Bart stayed by my side the entire time. It made leaving that much harder. The homeowner and I had a brief conversation the morning he returned. He was still very apologetic and explained what may have caused the situation. He and the crazy woman had been dating, but he ended it because of her suspicious and controlling behavior. I didn't inquire any further. I got the impression he was very embarrassed by her. I'd already been paid, so nothing was keeping me around any longer, except for Bart. I bent down and gave my hero a big hug and kiss on the nose. I could already feel the tears welling up. I didn't want to make a scene of myself, so I said goodbye and jogged away to my car. That was the worst and the last of my brief career in house sitting. And I'll miss it for a second, and as for Bart, that's a completely different story.
Where's your mom, Gracie? I turned toward Father and looked at him with a disgusted look when he asked me this. She's not my mom. She's just your girlfriend. He wasn't surprised by my response because he knew I never liked Carla. She will soon be, because I'm going to ask her to marry me today. He pulled out a ring and said with a cringe-worthy smile. I walked out of the room because I did not want to argue with my father over that cheap woman. Father started dating this girl just after 4 years of my mother's death. It was like she had put some spell over him because he was head over heels with her. She was absolutely disgusting, and I hated her. Only I knew what she really was behind that nice face of hers, but I could never tell him that because I know he would never believe me even if I did, so it was no use to even think about it. It was my mother's anniversary the next day, and I was getting ready when she walked into my room with a big nasty smile on her face. Trust me, every time I see her, I feel like I should kill her right away. I have imagined different methods of killing her, but I won't do it because Father liked her. Black suits you, dear. She came closer and caressed my cheek with the back of her hand. I immediately jumped away from her and shouted, "Don't touch me." She smirked by my response. "Why do you hate me, Grace? You know how much I love you, right?" She said with the same creepy and cringe smile. "Yes, Gracie, don't be so hard on your mom." Father walked in my room and said while kissing her, "Do any of you know how to knock?" I got frustrated by their public display of affection. I was ready to walk out of my room in frustration when Dad said there was something important he wanted to talk about. This year, Carla will be attending the ceremony as well. I turned my head in a jolt towards them. "Why? You are talking about the ceremony of Mom's anniversary, right? So why must your mistress attend it?" I said while gritting my teeth. But Father looked annoyed by what I said, and he started to scream at me that I should mind my manners and Carla is not his mistress, etc. I simply walked out of the room. I went directly to my mom's room. I locked it from inside just to be careful and started crying while sitting on her bed. There was a huge painting of Mom in the room. I was the one that made that for her birthday the year before she died. I started to bawl my eyes out because I was feeling so helpless at the moment that I could do nothing else except for cry. I remember the day Carla first came in our lives. I wasn't that much against her because I had seen my father being devastated by my mother's death for those past 4 years, and with Carla, he used to smile a little. I still did not like the fact that she is here to replace my mom, but I was ready to endure her for father's sake. But one day when I was sleeping, I felt someone touching me. I jolted awake, but Carla covered my mouth with her hands. "There was some dirt over you. I was just trying to clean it." She showed me her hands with a weird smile on her face. "What are you doing in my room in the first place?" I asked her. "Well, come on, isn't a mother allowed to see her future daughter?" And I did not like this response of her, and she was still smiling with that cringe-worthy smile. The touching started to get increasingly obvious. She would sometimes come inside my room when I was changing and would compliment my naked body. Sometimes she would get into the shower when I was already in there. Coming into my room without knocking became a habit of hers. I started to feel insecure and weird. At first, I thought it was just in my mind, but slowly, the things she did started to become transparent, as if she wanted me to know what she was up to. But obviously my father was so oblivious that he thought that she touching me is something she is doing to prove that she is worthy of being my mother, and that's what mothers do. Well, my mom did those things like cleaning me, brushing my hair, kissing my cheek, and it did not feel weird. There was motherly feeling behind it, but when Carla does these things, it definitely feels that she has ulterior motives. The other day, she barged in my room and borrowed my panties, saying she needs it, but she never returned those after that. Instead, she gave me a new set of red laced lingerie. I never wore them, nor am I going to wear them in the future. These things are nothing compared to what she does when she barged into my room in the middle of the night. I swear that I hate her so much that I am literally going to kill her unless I start to like her magically, which, by the way, is never going to happen. After crying my heart out, I went to the washroom and washed my face properly. I came out of the room and went to the hall where the ceremony was taking place. My blood was boiling watching Carla greeting guests like she was the woman of the house. During the entire event, I just tried to hide myself as much as possible from the prying eyes. After the event ended, Father came to me and said, "Listen, Gracie, I just got an urgent call from work, so I need to go on a 2-day business trip this evening. It's important, so try to get along with Carla and not to upset her in any way." He was looking at me with a serious and concerned look. I nodded, and he left. That night, I was suddenly awake in the middle of the night by the sensation of someone's tongue in my mouth. I tried to get up, but noticed my hands and legs were tied to each corner of the bed. "I don't want to be your mom, Grace. You know, I never want to marry your father, but I have to if I can come closer to you that way," she said, and started kissing me again. "You are so sexy. I love you, Grace," she moaned in my ears while slipping her hand inside my pants.